and let's just jump in. So, welcome to the fourth main topic. The fourth main topic I've titled is going to be: Is the NWSL falling behind in terms of their compensation structure? So, as you guys have known in past episodes, I've pretty frequently talked about um, the situation with Katarina Macario and whether or not she would stay or go, and how the NWSL pay structure gets in the way of that. And also for these other players, with Abby Dahlkemper leaving, with Sam Mewis leaving, Kristen Tobin, is that an indicator that the NWSL is falling behind? Are these players not being compensated enough? Is the NWSL not giving the players enough power in order to play their best game? Because as you guys know, the NWSL has playing rights. They've got that they hold on to and they restrict you to, and they've also got salary caps. And there's just so much restriction that the NWSL has. So with all of that in mind, and I've thought about this a lot, I think the NWSL is behind. I don't think they are continuing to fall behind, though. I think they are catching up really slowly but surely. Let me explain why a little bit. So, like I said, right now, I don't believe the NWSL in its own right has the resources or the money to keep these international stars in the league. Like I said, Sam Mewis, Abby Dahlkemper, Kristen Press, Tobin Heath, Caitlin Ford, Sam Kerr. The list just keeps growing. Rachel Daly, if she decides to stay at West Ham. So they're making strides. They're definitely getting better at getting more resources. The first evidence of this is their increased salary cap. So since 2019, it's gone up about 20%. It used to be about 420, or I'm sorry, 450-ish thousand dollars. Now it's gone up about 19.33% to $650,000. So that's giving you the opportunity to give more players at least more money. If you guys don't know what a salary cap is, because I know a lot of listeners are from abroad, a salary cap is essentially a set amount of money that each team in the NWSL can use per year to pay each of their players. So, for example, if you've got 20 players on your NWSL roster, when you add up all of their wages, it can't be greater than $650,000. That's what the salary cap is. So, inevitably, you're left with this problem here where if you play one player a ton of money, you are forced to give the rest of your players less money. When you've got international stars that just want to make an infinite ceiling with their money, a salary cap is the devil. there's no better way to put it. It puts a ceiling on how much money you can make. Players don't like that. They've worked their whole lives, their whole as since they were young kids to fulfill their dreams and play at the world's biggest stages. So they don't want to be sold short here. They don't want to be paid less than what they deserve and what they have earned. So the salary cap is not an attractive option, but at the end of the day, when you're increasing it, you're providing more players the opportunity to make more money. So it's getting better. Now, they've also increased their minimum and maximum amount on their contracts. They've increased the league minimum to $20,000 per year, and they've also increased the league max to $50,000 per year. Now, in terms of the salary cap and the arguments I just laid out, that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but there's always exceptions to the rules. So, for example, they've also introduced the concept of allocation money. So, what this basically does is you each team can purchase up to $300,000 in allocation money. You can trade for more, as far as I understand, you can get more. But what you can do is that salary cap, that $650,000, you can go to your team. You can use all of that to just pay your players, or you can also use allocation money to lure bigger names into your club and pay them above the league maximum, which is $50,000, which is why allocation money is such a big deal, right? And that's why Lindsey Horan and Crystal Dunn were able to sign such big six-figure deals. Let me back up just a little bit here. A little bit here. I want to be clear. So, the NWSL, by introducing this concept of allocation money, is catching up on the world stage. Here's why. So, what teams can do is if they've got a big international star such as a U.S. Women's National Team player or a player that's from abroad, and they want to lure them to the club, what they can do is they can use this allocation money. This allocation money is essentially like an all bets are off. You can pay these players whatever you want as long as you have the allocation money for it. So, for example, if Chicago Red Stars tomorrow wanted to lure Sam Kerr back to Chicago and they had $300,000 in allocation money for the year left over, they could pay, hypothetically, they could pay Sam Kerr all $300,000 of that allocation money for just one season of playing. Now, if they wanted to lure Sam Kerr and say Abby Dahlkemper to Chicago, they could pay them between the two. They could pay them up to they could pay one $299,999 and the other $1. But the point is, they could pay them both $150,000 if they want to with that allocation money. And the best part is, you can trade to get more. If you want to get up to $500,000 in allocation money, if you trade and play your cards out, you probably could. I don't believe that's changed since I've researched this particular topic, but if it has, let me know down in the comments. So essentially, you have this supply of allocation money you can offer to U.S. Women's National Team or international stars to give them more money and to lure them to the league. So there's still that ceiling as to how much money they can make, but at least the ceiling is growing, if that makes any sense. So this is a way to kind of breach the league maximum contract and pay these players more money and get them more involved and entice to play in the league. So there's also that. The other issue that doesn't get solved really is allocation, or not allocation money, I'm sorry. International competitions, but that's a whole nother story altogether. But there are some caveats with allocation money. So you can use allocation money. I'm reading this directly off of my notes because I want to make sure I get this right. You can use allocation money for players whose contract is larger than the league maximum, so if they get paid more than $50,000 a year. And they're also not U.S. or Canadian allocated, meaning they don't play for the United States Women's National Team or the Canadian National Team. So there's a workaround to this, but I'll get into that in 1 second. So in order for a player to get paid allocation money, that big pool of money we just talked about, they can't be U.S. or Canadian Women's National Team players, and they also have to meet one or more of the following criteria. They've got to be in the NWSL Best 11 or Second 11 in one of the two most recent seasons. They've got to be an international player who has made a cap for their national team in the last 24 months. They were the NWSL MVP, the Golden Boot, Rookie of the Year, Defender of the Year for one of the two most recent seasons. So they had to have won one of those awards in the last 2 years. Also, domestic players who have at least played 5 seasons in the NWSL. So, for example, if you are just a player who is from the United States, you've never made an appearance for the United States Women's National Team, but you've played in the league for 5 years, you could receive allocation money. Players who were former U.S. or Canadian Women's National players can also be awarded allocation money. A good example of this is Sydney Leroux and Amy Rodriguez. They could receive allocation money. And also, last but not least, players previously on a contract that included allocation money. So if your player has received allocation money in the past, they're automatically eligible to receive it in the future, which makes sense because why would anybody take a pay cut, right? So you might be wondering, okay, Bryce, you just said that with the introduction of allocation money, it attracts U.S. Women's National Team players and all these international players, but clearly in the criteria it says that you can't use the allocation money on U.S. or Canadian allocated players. There's a loophole in this. There's a very, very important loophole in this. And if any of you know this better than I do, feel free to jump down in the comments to correct me. But the one loophole in this is that United States Women's National Team players, and I believe Canadian international players, can do what they call not declare federation status. What that means is that, as far as I know, if you're a United States Women's National Team player, you can declare what they call federation status. What I believe that means is you can go under contract with U.S. Soccer as a U.S. Women's National Team player. If you do that, you are not eligible for that allocation money, if I am not mistaken. But if you do not declare that federation status, you are technically not a US or Canadian allocated player, which is weird. It's a weird loophole. Like I said, guys, if I'm totally botching this, feel free to jump down in the comments, give me your sources. I'm willing to talk about this all day long. But by not declaring that status, you are not technically a US or Canadian allocated player, which means you are eligible to receive allocation money because you will more than likely fit one of the other criteria. Two cases in point. This is exactly why Crystal Dunn and Lindsey Horan were able to sign those big deals with Portland. I don't believe either one of them declared for federation status, and that's why they're able to sign these six-figure deals because they most certainly fit at least one of these criteria that I've just certainly laid out. So, that's where this is all coming in. So, let's kind of round this out a little. Crystal Dunn and Lindsey Horan and this introduction of allocation money is evidence that the NWSL, while they are behind right now in keeping and attracting international and U.S. Soccer stars, they're not falling behind. I think they're slowly but surely catching up. And this piece of allocation money and their new compensation guidelines is it's an attractive it gets to be more of an attractive options for players because it raises the ceiling at which how much you can get paid for a year in the NWSL. So overall, guys, I know that was a bit of a long-winded and really confusing discussion, so I apologize for that. I'm going to link the article that I just laid out that specifies what exactly allocation money is used for. I'm going to link that article down in the description below so you can do some of your own reading if you're more curious. But do you guys think the NWSL is falling behind in terms of attracting international talent and keeping international talent? Let me know down in the comments below. Let's talk and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me for that through that fourth main topic. I know that was a lot to unpack. Let's get into the next main topic.